Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. This is Christy Ruffino, and I am excited to share with you my guest today, Bill Hoffmann. Welcome, Bill.
Well, thank you, Christy. I welcome you. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. I am sitting here in the cold Chicago winter, and you are in the nice, shiny, bright, sunny Florida weather. So I'm looking at the blue skies behind you, and I'm a little envious right now.
Well, it's like 77 degrees. It's beautiful. It's why people move to Florida, is because this time of year, from now till about May, is just gorgeous. So yes, we're in paradise.
Yeah. I know. I was there in December, and I can't wait to go back. So super excited about that. And what I would like to do really quick is I want to share a little bit about who you are. I know you're going to share your story, but there's a few credentials that you may not touch on. And I want to let the audience know a little bit about your past. So Bill Hoffmann has had more than 30 plus years in network marketing and traditional businesses. He is recognized as a 7-figure earner, breaking multiple recruitment records in his network marketing industry career. In addition, Bill has been the owner of several network marketing ventures with multi-million-dollar exits. He now focuses on corporate consulting with a finance specialization, helping clients worldwide develop processes and identify sustainable solutions to support business growth. Bill is a graduate of the University of Toledo, where he studied finance and marketing. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell.
That's what a resume would say if I ever went out and got a job, right?
That's a resume. And you know what? I know I've got the insider scoop that you kind of had a recent medical procedure done, and I took advantage of that opportunity while you're kind of had to slow down a little bit and invited you to be on our podcast. So I'm really excited about this episode. And I know you've got some great wisdom to share with our audience.
I am super excited. And yes, I had a surgery on my foot, which stops me from my daily pickleball play. But I wanted to get it done early in the year because I've got the US Open in pickleball and the World Championships coming up in April and June, and I wanted to be ready for that. So I had to take the 6 weeks of now in a boot. So
wow.
Yes.
So this is like serious pickleball activity.
I'm I don't do it for a living, but I do it at the level that I could make a living. If that's, I'd have to take a weight cut and pay. But the sport is the fastest growing sport. And we'll be in the Olympics in 6 years. I mean, it's a pretty amazing story of how it's gone. And the Mecca, or where it all takes place, is Southwest Florida, and where I happen to be. So I get to spend a lot of time with a lot of the professionals that do it for a living.
Wow. Yeah. So pickleball is kind of a whole new thing for me. I just really learned about it in December when I was there, and I did a little research, and I'll definitely know just a fraction of what it is, but I had a lot of fun. The first couple times I was just trying to figure out the rules, and it's okay, just keep hitting the ball. But then once I got the hang of it, I had a lot of fun, and we were playing every night. It was great.
That's awesome.
Not to your level, but you know what? That's okay.
You know what? That's the great thing about this sport, though, is it's at everybody's level, right? In other words, and it's the most social. You had to see people just there playing, and you could play with different people and everything. It really changes the dynamics of a sport, especially for people that might never have been considered themselves a great athlete or a great sports person. They can actually come into this thing and into this game and play it and enjoy it and feel competitive, yet never have to go out and do the things that I'm required to do in the times that I play. But I'm a little bit of an addictive personality on those things. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I don't
played
think.
tennis my whole life, and so this has just been the next evolution.
Yeah, I don't think you do anything halfway, which is where we're going to transition right now, because
Yeah.
I know in a moment you're going to share some brilliant insight on entrepreneurism, but give me and my audience a little bit of insight about your story. Like, how did you kind of get here? I know before I hit the record button, you had talked about something to do with brains and trains. I don't know if you want to revisit that, but
Well,
I thought that was cute.
I will talk about that at the end with the newest venture that I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I'm always looking for the next thing, right? But I was 12 years old. The insurance guy used to come by our house and collect money. That's long before people had it drafted out of their accounts and stuff like that. And his name was Gary, and we'd always follow Mr. Gary outside, and he'd open up his trunk and he'd have some candy or popcorn or something that he'd give the kids. Well, he opened up his trunk, and there were his golf clubs. Now, my dad loved golf, but he worked at a job. He worked at DuPont his whole life. And even though he loved golf, he only did it maybe once a month. He would sneak out real early on Sunday and then meet us at church. And Gary, I said, Gary, what do you got your clubs in your trunk for? And he goes, well, I golf every Wednesday and every Saturday. I says, do your boss know that? He says, I don't have a boss. I'm an entrepreneur. And I went, huh. And I walked in my home and I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Now, my dad, who had worked at a factory his whole life, said, okay, yes, sure, son, like that. Because, I mean, not trying to discourage me, that was his mentality. My mom said, of course you are. And I set out at that moment to learn what entrepreneur was. And then, of course, I got to be about 14 and I asked my dad, I said, listen, I want to make some extra money. And he goes, well, we've got a lawnmower there that isn't used except for when you cut the grass here. And I went, all right. Well, I lived in a middle-class neighborhood. Everybody cut their own grass except for a few old people. And all my buddies' dads told them to do the same thing. So we're going out and about and we're getting people and we're cutting our prices just to get the 8 lawns, and 4 of us are all going after it. None of us are making any money. And so I came to my buddies and I said, listen, I'm going to go out there and pitch this. You guys are going to cut the grass. Who made the most last week? And whatever it was, I matched it and added $2 more. And I said, you guys will cut the grass, but you got to cut mine too. And I went out and hustled up jobs. They cut the grass. I made as much as they did. We split the money that way from that standpoint. They got my grass cut, never cut grass again, never have, never will.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial aspect. That's how it's.
Yeah, but entrepreneurialism, not from the perspective of doing it yourself, but bringing together a team. And I think that is one of the things that entrepreneurs kind of get stuck in, is they think they have to do everything themselves.
Well, that usually limits them.
Yes.
They're limited to something, or they become great at something. They leave that job and then they go do that. But now they got to do the books. They got to do all the other stuff. And the problem is they don't delegate it out. So I have a finance degree. I actually have an accounting degree now from 30-some years ago, right? I've never practiced it. I don't do my own taxes. I don't do any of this. I let somebody else handle it. I deal with what I deal with, and that's all so I think there's different levels of entrepreneurism. And if they're willing to learn, and I think that's one of the reasons you should be reading a lot, or at least podcasts, or, you can always garner something that comes away from it and you go, oh. And then, of course, you got to remove that ego. I've always realized that I can take a business to a certain level, but that's probably as far as it's going to go in whatever that business is. It's going to take somebody else's expertise to take it to the next level. So that's why I've started a lot of companies and sold them. Not because I wanted to, because I had gotten to the point that I couldn't grow it anymore. And so I needed the people to come in and to really do that. And, I could have probably taken a piece of the pie or done something like that, but I always like to just break myself from there and then move on to something else.
Yeah. So a couple points with that is, I think, entrepreneurs feel that they can't afford to hire help or they can't afford to outsource. And when you look at the numbers, just like you did, you can make more money doing something else. So you actually can't afford to not hire out.
You
And
have
that's
to look
the
at
mindset shift.
you have to look at what your dollar amount is worth.
Right.
Okay. And in the beginning, anything I needed done at the house when I first started out, I was 23 years old when I bought my house. I did that myself. If something a faucet needed to be fixed or something like that. But as time went on, I started going, well, if I can get it done for less than 50, I'm going to have somebody else do it. Because you also need that time to unwind too. You need that time to not just be totally, if all you do is work and then come home and do all the work. That's why I always take my hat off to any single parent, right? That has to go and do that and then come home and it doesn't stop, right? Whereas at least if you've got two in the household, you can have some timeouts, right? So I've always looked at it as, and then of course now it gets to at the level I am now, there'd be nothing I would do. I mean, I'll change a light bulb, but I'm not going to do anything because my time is too valuable to either make money or to do things that I enjoy doing. Because Socrates was once quoted, he said, because they came up to him and they said, well, why are you playing this childish game? He was playing marbles. And he says, well, your mind's like a bow. If you leave it strung all the time, it becomes worthless. And people don't understand that. They've got to be able to take some time off, whatever that is. Now, in the beginning, we worked like crazy, but I always did it in 90-day periods. And then I took a long weekend because for 90 days, I might be working 18, 22 hours a day. But if you keep that pace up, you'll burn out or you'll actually miss opportunities to grow your business because you're just not there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to kind of go back to before, because the second point you made about learning when to walk away and kind of recognizing that sometimes we've got to get out of our own way and realize that we've done enough. And I know you said you've sold quite a few businesses. And for me, that was a lesson that was really difficult for me because I started a women's networking organization and I felt like it was my baby, right? I built it from nothing into multi-chapter, multi-state organization. And then when I got tired, I just couldn't let go of it. And so recognizing the fact that I did everything I could with the interest and skills that I had was great. And now it's time for somebody else to take it to that next place. And so I can really relate to that.
I think it's important. And usually pain on either side, either the pain of I can't get it any farther or something else comes in and causes pain. And I know in our conversations, it was COVID that kind of, and you said, I need to go in a different direction. And, I'm not saying you wouldn't have done that anyway. I'm just saying that kind of bolstered your thing and went, oh, I better do this.
It was
perfect timing.
It was honestly the complete catalyst that kind of forced my hand. Right. Because I had been struggling to figure this out for 18 years now, right? Well, then it was 16. And I'm thinking, I can do this. I can figure it out. I'm not going to turn my back on all these women. But, I was kind of forced to pivot. And now I'm excited about what's going to be next. The next 18 years are going to be about. And I know it's not going to be me driving the ship. So super excited about that. You
learned from that.
I did. Not necessarily as fast as I could have, but that's okay. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your
Appreciate it.
Story. Did you want to say something?
Well, no. I think that when I hear you say that, if you were a male, we might not hear that same. Men aren't nearly, especially your guys' clique, the women's clique, right? You guys are kind of taking over the world, right?
Yep.
is
You
is
bet we are.
a lot tighter, a lot more of the, like, I have no problem telling one of my friends or one of my business associates, hey, it's just not working out. Thanks. And they don't get upset at me either. They just, they might be upset at the situation, but they don't take it as a personal thing.
Right.
Women tend to take it as a personal thing. Now, I'm not saying all women or all men. I'm saying the majority general rule is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And honestly, with our community, it's very relational. It's almost like a big sisterhood. And so there is a lot of loyalty and feelings and emotions. Some of my leaders have been leaders for 6, 7, 8 years or longer. So,
right.
There's all of those things go into play. But,
Yep.
also that gives us different strengths and different power too. So it's a yin and yang thing.
I think that's why I said you're taking over the world.
You are right with that. Okay, so do you mind hanging on just a little bit longer? We're going to take a quick
I do.
commercial break, and then I'm
Okay.
really excited to get into the meat and potatoes of this interview.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, hang tight, everybody. Don't go away, or if you do, come right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Overcoming Mediocrity Project. Are you ready to share your story in a life-changing book with other success-driven women? Then, what if you could use that book to get speaking gigs, podcast interviews, and possibly a new client or two? Wouldn't that be great? Well, watch out, chicken soup. Here comes Overcoming Mediocrity. Our proven system can transform your struggle story into a powerful signature message and then as one chapter in an Amazon best-selling book. Our process is simple and economical, and it will bring a lot of eyeballs on you, your business, and your big message to the world. We welcome you to apply to join our project. Just visit us at overcomingmediocrity.org and click on the apply button at the top of the page. We'll see you soon. Welcome back, everybody, to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. This is Christy and Bill, and I know we are going to get into the topic of entrepreneurialism. And for me, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I did have a 9-to-5 job for a short period of time, but quickly exited that path. And what I found is that even though a lot of the skills of entrepreneurialism can be taught, people who kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit, it's completely different than somebody that is just really happy going to work, punching the clock, going home, and then moving on to something else. It's like we have a drive, we have a passion, we have a just kind of our brain is always like the gears are always turning. However, I know a lot of this stuff can be learned, right? Is that true?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree 100%. I think that there are entrepreneurs that are just born that way. I would say that was myself. I've never been hired, right? I'm not hireable, right? So from that standpoint, but I do know that sometimes circumstances will, I'm not an anti-job person because a lot of the skills that I have and the mannerisms came from my working from the time I was about 14 on up, right? In other words, I used to work. I worked at a Burger King during school. I worked at a catering place. I learned you had to be there at a certain time. You had to do this. You had to play that role. And throughout life, even doing my consulting, I've learned that there's guidelines I have to do so I think that can help you in your entrepreneur. But I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially today, I think what's happened is the market shifted. A job today, to go to work someplace for 40 years now, is probably, even if that was your plan, it's probably not going to happen. And so it forces people to go, well, that's kind of scary, but I guess maybe being an entrepreneur isn't as scary as they thought when they envisioned their dad, their mom, their grandparents that all worked 40 years at the same place, got a nice retirement, and so on and so on. those kinds of got shattered about in the 80s. And then it's kind of just kept going and kept going. So I think that it's spurred more people to try the entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah. And then especially with internet and how easy it is for people to just go ahead and throw up a website and connect with people from all over the world, really through our computer or our phone.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have to have the big budgets like the companies used to have to be able to get in front of an audience or buy TV time, right? We can become a TikTok influencer overnight almost. So just it's a lot easier for that perspective.
It is. But there's a lot more competition too, from a standpoint, if you think of it that way, right?
Yep.
So, but you can always set yourself apart. It's always can be done. And at the end of the day, if you work hard and you're willing to learn from what you're doing, right? Because too many times we get hung up on just this is my idea and I'm going to make this thing happen no matter what. Whereas I love that. In fact, that's one of the points I want to bring up. It's called functional humility, right? In other words, it's about the ego to push an idea, yet not its outcome. See, you can be running down a thing and it just isn't going to work, or it isn't going to work that way. You can't let your ego just keep going down there. In other words, if you're losing $1 on every sale, selling 1 million of them didn't get you profitable. You just lost $1 million, right? And some people can't get that. They'll go, no, I'm going to do it because then and then of course they're not successful in their adventure, and then so on and so on. So you got to be able to separate those things. Use your ego that drives you to push the idea, but don't get hung up on the outcome of what people may or may not buy that. I mean, you could be the greatest salesperson of vinyl records, and I could be the worst salesperson of digital music. And guess what? I'm probably going to win.
Yes. Yeah. Especially right now. Can I challenge you on something you said earlier though? Because you said all you have to do is work harder. What about working smarter?
Well, of course, that is true. And my definition of work hard is different than maybe somebody else's.
Okay. So let's clarify that.
Yeah. You do have to work smarter. Yes, I totally agree. But I think that's a catchphrase sometimes. In other words, is there something else you could be doing other than at 1 o'clock in the afternoon every week when you do your podcast? You know what I'm saying? In other words, you could find something to do that, but you have to, you say, oh no, I got to do, and then you had to be prepared for it. You did a little research and you looked up a little more information, even though we were fortunate to be able to spend some time while you were down here in Florida and learn about each other from that standpoint. But the truth is you spend time doing that research. You might not even think of that as work. You might think of that as it's fun. It gets your creative juices going. It does all those things, but it's still work.
Yeah.
So you have to put the time in. There is no such thing as it just happening. So my idea of work, I haven't worked a day in my life as an adult.
Because you enjoy what you're doing.
Because I always enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. It gets me out of bed in the morning. I don't even have an alarm. I don't tell what the hell's her name? Heck's her name. Alexa. I don't even talk to her. I tell her to do that. I tell her to play music. That's it. But I don't sit there and say, set my alarm, because I don't need it. I wake up at 6 a.m. and I'm ready to go. My brain's ticking, and I read a chapter of my book that I've been super excited about. The Obstacle is the Way. I think it's a fantastic book.
I got that. I started reading it. That was great.
Well, I'm on my second read because sometimes I find that after I've absorbed it, I like to do it again and I kind of pick parts out of it, right? Yeah. But the point I'm making is, now some people might look at that as work. I don't look at that as work. That's just me refining whatever God's given me, skill set, or whatever he's instilled in me to be able to refine it, because you got to take that time to do that. So, but to me, work is go out on 80 and watch the guys or the gals working on the streets during this cold weather, right? Or the ones that have to get traffic off when they break down or something like that. That to me is work, right?
Absolutely.
If you do something you really love, you'll never work a day in your life. You never will.
Right. I love
Yeah.
that. And,
Yeah.
and so the challenge for entrepreneurs becomes, you may love what you're doing, but how do you make money at it? Because we can't keep doing what we're doing if it's just an expensive hobby. And I know there's some mindset stuff, right, that we have to be able to grab a hold of to be able to kind of take our business to where it needs to go. I'm going to touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, I do. I think that, well, first of all, I want to read something that I think is important on Webster's definition of entrepreneurialism. And I want you to understand the difference between some engineer or some really book smart person that wrote this versus what I believe if we were to talk to 100 entrepreneurs would say entrepreneurism. So Webster says, it's a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. That's their definition. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't fit into somebody's, but that's not what an entrepreneur is.
Oh, no,
That's not at
I
all.
didn't sign up for that.
No, an entrepreneur sees something that they think they can probably do better.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Or they see something that they go, I bet you people would like this or want this. And usually, because I don't know that you want to ever run your business like a hobby. I don't think that ever works, because I want a return on my money, right?
Absolutely.
And my time is money. So I want a return on it, right? So I have no problem saying to somebody when I'm doing something, saying, this is what I'm expecting from this. And I think it's good to put those expectations down there. But now I do know people that have taken their hobbies and turned it into a real business. That makes sense. I got that. But they're looking at, okay, I know a guy that made these signs for, like, I'm a big Ohio State fan, but he did it for Michigan. He did it for all the universities, and they were like the wins things you put out in your yards, right? And he used to do that as a hobby. It was his relaxing when he wasn't at work, and he loved working with machinery and stuff like that. And he did that. But then when I saw him, how he made the switch to doing this from a business standpoint, now he was looking, where do I buy the steel where I can get it at this price? What kind of machinery can I do to make this, automate this process, and things like that? And he grew a business that did quite well for him. And I'd say the last 10 years of his working time, he did better than the 40 years he worked someplace.
Well, I love
right?
hearing success stories like that.
Right. And that's something that, now, was there 100 other people or 1,000 other people that did it? Yes. But he made his a little bit unique. And then he worked his butt off. He went to all the festivals, all the different shows, and just got those things out there, because the law of large numbers will usually take care of itself too, from a standpoint. Okay. I hope I answered that okay, but I just want people to know that it's important that they do focus on making a profit.
Yes.
That is important.
Absolutely. And I honestly think that it is more challenging for women to do that. And I'm not saying all women, but a lot of women just have a hard time asking for the sale, owning their value, going in with an agenda, because we can't have a bunch of friends out there. We need to be able to close sales. But I think a lot of women struggle with that. And I'm not sure if you can speak to that, honestly, but
Well,
I know I
I
can.
can. I can on one thing. Here's what I would say. So in mine, it was always opportunity based, right? So here's what I found. Most people aren't good at asking for the credit card or the order. So what I taught with my groups, and I built pretty big teams. I've recruited a couple million people in my day, right? So I mean, that's I've had some pretty big teams out there. What I taught the masses was, I would say, well, Christy, I've already shown you what everything there, and you did the buying signals, but I still have this, oh, do I ask her? Do I? Because they're afraid of the no, right? So I would say, Christy, what else do you need from me in order to get you in business, get started? So it's the same thing. I just asked you for your, you say, well, how do I do this? Well, I just need your credit card.
Mhm.
Boom. Right now, and if you're not selling an opportunity, you're selling a product. What do I need? What do you need from me in order to be able to take this home with you today?
Right.
See, you can do the same thing. It's a softer way, and you're getting the same question, because no one likes to buy, or no one likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. So you're letting them make that decision. Oh, I want to buy it. Or the true objection comes up, something that they didn't tell you before, or you didn't catch, by saying, what do you need from me in order to get you to be able to take this product and make it a part of your life? That's just an easy
I love that.
thing. Yeah.
I love it. So I could very easily say to a woman when I'm interviewing them about sharing their story, I could just very easily say, what do you need from me to be able to have your face on the cover of our next book? Something like
See,
that, right?
right. That works perfectly, because now, one, that everybody has an ego.
Yep.
Everybody does.
They see themselves on the cover.
So now I see myself on there, and I'm going, oh, okay. It's the same thing that I see all the time on Facebook and Twitters and TikToks, and where people say, it's going to cost me $1,000 to join a business. Oh, I just don't have it. Yet they'll run down and get the new iPhone, whatever it is now, 14, 15, 13, whatever it is. They'll go and get that. So they just didn't see the value. So you just got to show them the value and find out if they say, if I said to you then, I'd really like to do that, but I just don't know that I can, it might even be a money issue. I just don't know. I've never written anything about myself before. I don't, and that way you probably have people that will help them with that, and on and on. But the point is now you've come to the true objection. We're automatically think it's the money.
Right.
Money's never the issue. Never is.
Because people have the money for what's important to them.
Right. Or they can
get, or they find it. They find a way to get it.
When people used to tell me no to opportunities, right, because of finances, I'd say, how long have you been working? 23 years. And you're, from what I can see, I think you're a hard worker. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And I'd say, so what you're doing isn't working for you. I think it's time for you to go to grandma one more time and get the $300. See, that's how I did it. That's how I'd go, I think it's time you got to do this. I mean, if you see what I see, and you already know that what you're doing isn't getting you there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Stop the insanity, right? It's time to stop, do something different to get different results. I know for me, one of the things that somebody told me one time that stuck with me is, when you're asking for a sale, you're not asking them to invest in me. I'm asking that person to invest in themselves. And who am I to not give them that opportunity? So just to be able to ask and then disassociate from their answer. Because if they say no, it's not a reflection in you. It's either you haven't met an objective, right? You haven't been able to show your value. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. And that conversation, you get better at it the more you do it, and be able to figure out how to answer those questions or those objections before the ask comes. But just the mindset shift of, I'm asking them to invest in themselves, was huge for me when I heard that the first time.
I think that's so important, because too many times people take it personally.
Yeah.
And there's a saying in sales, and I believe it's very, very true. I can't say the right thing to the wrong person, and I can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
I love that too.
It can't be done. We're giving ourselves, we got to take that ego that we all have. you got to put that to the side and say, this isn't about me. I mean, now listen, will you get better at whatever you're presenting the more you do it? Of course you will. So maybe you could take, credit for if you messed up the first 10 times. But as long as you're critiquing yourself, and years ago, I used to just keep a recorder in my pocket, and I'd listen to my presentation, and then I'd listen to it afterwards. And I used to, back when I had hair, I would pull my hair out and go, I can't believe I said that. But I learned not to do it again. And I learned those different things so that it came down to, in fact, one of my greatest recruiting times was a guy came up to me at a presentation. He was a little scary. He was carrying a little bag, and he came up to me, and I was meeting with some people afterwards. And I said, well, listen, you come back to me in 45 minutes and I'll talk to you. Right? Didn't think he would. He comes back. He goes, what are you doing? This is back when I was in the long distance business. So I shared it with him. He goes, I want to get started. Well, he was scary looking. I had 2 kids at the time. Now I have 3, but I had 2 kids at the time. So when I was signing up, this was back before the internet, we would write down an application. You'd put his address, my address on. I wasn't going to put my address down. Well, there was a friend of mine, Bob. Bob wasn't married, didn't have any kids. So I just had Bob recruit him because I figured if he kills Bob, whatever, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right. So, I mean, by the way, Bob
is fine. No, Bob was not harmed during this.
He was not harmed. Bob drove around a BMW because of this guy for a decade, right? I mean, it was unbelievable. So, but the guy says, well, when can you meet with some of the people to talk to them about this opportunity? I said, how about if we do it this Sunday? This was Thursday, do it this Sunday. He goes, okay. Well, we get there. Now, I lived in a small little town, Sylvania, but Toledo, Ohio. One newspaper on, and I see this guy come in, and he's like the bank president to one of the big banks. Comes over, sits down with us. I give him this presentation. He joins. Okay. I didn't know he knew Larry. I didn't know he knew him, right? I go, okay. Then next guy comes, president of Owens Corning, or vice president of Owens Corning. I'm going, wow. So he comes down, he joins the business. This goes on with 4 or 5 people. Finally, he goes, hey, there's a guy that's coming from this company, another big company in Toledo. He goes, I gotta go do something real quick. He goes, but when he comes in, well, when he comes, now Larry's not there. So I asked him, I said, well, how do you know Larry? He goes, I don't. He called me and said I had to meet this guy. The point I'm trying to make is that guy didn't recruit. I didn't recruit him. You know why? I then put all the different stories in my head, and I came up with my own, because that's what we do as human beings. We create these stories that have nothing to do with it, because I'm going, he went to the dadgum social pages in the paper and started calling these people that were in the socialite thing, and told them you had to meet this guy named Bill Hoffmann. He's making a killing in this company. And I know you're probably working your butt off and you don't have a residual income. And that was his pitch. And he got him to come. And I always remember, not at that moment I didn't, but later on, I had to ask him for his forgiveness, Larry, because I said, I screwed up on this guy, right? I didn't, because I knew the story. Right. And so I've always decided I'm not going to create a story in my head. I'm going to just go with what's supposed to happen. And then whatever happens, happens, because I can't say the wrong thing to the right person. I can't say the right thing to the wrong person. So in other words, that's how I lived. I give $1 million presentation, whether there's one person going to watch this podcast or 2 million people are going to watch this podcast, because if it's worth my time to do it, and it's worth your time to take to watch it, I've got to give it all.
Right. Wow. Yeah. I love that quote. I will put that in the show notes, because I think that's powerful.
Okay.
All right. So we have only a few minutes left. Do you have any last minute tips for these, maybe a budding entrepreneur or a struggling entrepreneur?
Well, I'm going to tell one more quick story then.
Okay.
A guy by the name of Zig Ziglar.
Who is that? I've never heard of him.
bet most of you have read his books. Well, I'm not going to go into the story how I met him and how I ended up driving him around and things like that. We became great friends. But as we were driving down the road one time, he said, Bill, you know what the problem with most people is? They spend their entire lives getting ready and set, and they never go. They never go. And I was an entrepreneur at that time, but I was your typical person that was holding back a little bit, kind of, just getting it, making some money, but not. And that hit me so hard that I said, you know what? For now on, something sounds good. You called me yesterday, the day before, and said, we're going to do this thing. I said, I'm on it. Boom. Took the time to write things. I don't worry about getting ready and set because there is no perfect time or perfect situation or perfect anything. It's just go. Because it's time to do this. And that's how I ended up in my newest adventure, which I think is what we wanted to close with, right?
Yeah, I'd love to have you share a little bit about that because I think it's pretty fascinating. I did a little research on YouTube and watched some of the reels that you guys created, and it opened up my eyes about something pretty cool. So
yeah, well, we've all used or know people that have used Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, all of them.
Especially in the last year or year and a half.
2 years, right? Yeah. So the problem is most customers don't realize that they're charging the restaurants. So you pay the delivery fees and the tip, but the restaurants are getting hit with 20 to 40% on the food cost. Right.
And they can't afford that, but yet they can't afford to not do it.
That's why I call it a love-hate relationship. They love that it's being delivered, but they can't stand them, those third-party companies. And we created a company called Snap Delivered that is all referral based, right? And when we sign up a restaurant, they only pay $2. So on that $40 order that they were losing $12 to Uber Eats and DoorDash, they only lose $2. Whether it's a $40 order, a $50 order, a $100 order, it's only $2. Yeah. Now we still have the delivery fees that are $5 and $3.50 for gas. But the bottom line is those are there even with Uber Eats and DoorDash and Grubhub too. Now you can get rid of the $5 by going on the membership where you just pay $10 a month and then you get unlimited deliveries, right? Which is great. But the bottom line is restaurants are jumping on board. And why entrepreneurs like it? And that's what I've been doing. We opened up in 11 cities now. We're going to open up 20 more this month, which I'm super excited about. There's 1.4 million restaurants. We've got about 800 of them, right? So it's still we're just still this little baby, right? We've just barely made it out of the womb, I tell people, right? We're just there, right? But you get paid 40 cents for every restaurant that you refer to it.
Wow.
Forever. Every order that's ever placed. So every restaurant's worth about $240 a month, and get 10 of them, you're making $2,400 monthly residual. Some people spend 40 years of their life trying to get that in Social Security, which they aren't going to get.
I know. And that's why I think, I mean, obviously, it's brilliant. And when I saw it, I thought it was brilliant because you kind of took like the whole approach of the red ocean, blue ocean, right? There's already out there, but you're doing it differently. You're not spending, a ton of money on marketing, and you're not gouging the restaurants. You're actually serving the restaurants, giving them a better option. And now you're bringing your network marketing experience into this. So it's going to grow organically like wildfire.
It has, just like unbelievable. In Tucson, Arizona, it took us about 2 months to get 10 restaurants and 10 drivers in a 5-mile radius.
Yep.
Less than a month later, we're at 86 drivers and 68 restaurants now because the word of the mouth just starts to boom, 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 boom.
I know.
The bottom line is customers, when they refer their friends and family to something like we do with restaurants and we do with movies and we do with a certain perfume or aftershave or whatever, right? We refer people all the time. Word of mouth is powerful. Now you get paid $1 every time somebody places an order. For everybody that uses your referral code, meaning they download the app. Only way you can download the app is you got to have someone's referral code to tie it all in. Wow. So it's a referral-based business. It's powerful. People are going crazy with it, and we're looking for people. I mean, we will probably put a couple 100,000 people on over the next 18 months that are helping us grow the business, and then millions of customers. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it.
We're
And I
going to
talked
work
to your
on
good
growing
friend.
Chicago.
We are getting ready to.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. So I'm super excited about it. So I want to thank you, first of all, for thinking of me and having me do this. I enjoy. It reminds me a little bit of pickleball, meaning I love playing the game, but there's only one thing I like more, and that's teaching it. I love being an entrepreneur. I absolutely do. But I belong to lots of different groups of entrepreneurs to help them. And it's not Bill's idea, by the way. All I do is I'm a sponge, and I take other people's and I look at what worked and I go, oh, okay. And then somebody will be telling me something. I'll say, hey, I heard to maybe do this or maybe do that. And they try it. And to me, that is as rewarding almost as rewarding as my 3 children are to me.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you for spending your time sharing some of this great information about being an entrepreneur, because I know, there's a lot of people that are facing some insecurities right now with their career that they thought that they were stable in. And I know a lot of people in the medical field or just all kinds of fields that they're being forced to make a decision, comply by certain rules. And we're not going to get into the rules, but comply by a rule or don't work with us anymore. And so that's making people's foundation shift a little bit, because the security they thought they had is gone, and now they're looking to do other things. And so I think right now it couldn't be a better time to step into some sort of entrepreneurial adventure. And you are a walking and talking example of how we can all be successful doing it.
And you will grow personally if you do so. It doesn't matter if you're successful the first time you're trying it.
Nope.
You will become a better person, learn things about yourself. And what I tell people too is find something you like to do and see if it can make money. But if that isn't you, because I'm not that creative guy, I don't think of it that way. I like to take an idea that's already out there and then just refine it. So what I would say is find something you're excited about. It can be somebody else's business, somebody else's idea, and just run with it. And you'll learn a lot. And chances are, if you're really committed, you'll make some money in it.
Right. Amen to that. All right. So we'll go ahead and definitely in the show notes, share some information about SNAP delivery, because I know our customers would want to learn about that and maybe open up a territory in their city.
If they'd like to.
Yeah. So
that'd be awesome. There's actually no cost to get started. So, there is no reason for somebody that has an entrepreneurial spirit that understands they got to go to the restaurants and talk to them. Not hard. They love you coming in and talking to them. Trust me. But the bottom line is you can do this. Somebody can. You just got to be willing to put that time and that energy and the work into it. But the residual side of this, it's the best I've seen in all the residuals that I play a part of.
And you've been a part of a lot, so that says something.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Well, thank you very much. And if you heard anything on this interview today, I really encourage you to share it with somebody else, because we learn more, we retain more if we teach somebody else. And so please make sure you pay it forward. And if you like our episode, make sure you subscribe, because we don't want you to miss any of the amazing guests we have on our show. So until then, have a blessed day, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.